Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to some reaction to the 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix from Baku. My thoughts are with you all, Ferrari fans. That was a disaster, really, wasn't it? We'll get onto that very, very shortly. Hope you're all well in the chat. Good to see you all. A little bit earlier, of course, this Sunday because the race started at 12 rather than 2-ish usually. So a little bit earlier than usual, but still nice. Quick heads up, though, before we go any further. You may remember from last time I was live, the preview and what I said on social media, this will be much shorter than usual because I've got a puppy to go and pick up and I've got a 70-mile round trip to do it. So I've got to fly off no later than 4:30 and I've got some things to do. So it will be about an hour and 15 minutes rather than the 8.5 hours or whatever it is we usually tend to do. On that note, I'm going to hop straight into it and have a look at the race result. I am solo, of course, for this one, as I said the other day as well. So, Max Verstappen took a dominant victory in Baku, leading home teammate Sergio Perez in second place, 20.8 seconds clear. Perez did get fastest lap, though, so bonus point there for him. George Russell, third place, because top five, got to be there somewhere. Lewis Hamilton in fourth, fifth for Pierre Gasly. What a drive from him, actually. And Sebastian Vettel in sixth. I missed Sebastian Vettel in sixth place there. Fernando Alonso, seventh. Daniel Ricciardo, eighth. And Lando Norris in ninth place in the second McLaren. Not seen his interview, but wasn't overly thrilled over team radio. So keep an eye out for that one. Esteban Ocon in 10th place, taking that final point for Alpine. Valtteri Bottas in 11th for Alfa Romeo. 12th was Alex Albon. I'll tell you now, I don't remember seeing much of either of those two in that race, other than being caught in other fights in the midfield. But, quiet race, 11th and 12th. If more had happened ahead of them, maybe they would have nicked a point. Yuki Tsunoda in 13th place in the Alpha Tauri. 14th for Mick Schumacher. 15th and last of the finishers is Latifi. And then we've got Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, and then we've got Leclerc and Sainz, all DNFs. Sainz, Leclerc, Zhou and Magnussen, all with Ferrari engine mechanical issues, and Lance Stroll, I believe, had an issue as well with some correlation or something going on there. So there we go. Yes. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, but kind of similar to how we tend to do it. I'll go through the top three teams as I always do, so we'll start with Red Bull, but I will also throw Ferrari in there as well because their story's kind of quite important to how that victory was so dominant for Red Bull in the end. So we will start with Red Bull and Max Verstappen, who took, was it ever in doubt? As soon as those Ferraris dropped out of the race, and as soon as Sergio Perez was told not to fight, it was kind of obvious which way that race was going. Took the lead, overtaking his teammate. Started third, kind of was third for a little while, got caught behind Leclerc. Virtual safety car came out because of Sainz's stricken Ferrari. That allowed Leclerc to make a surprise early pit stop, I think it's fair to say. And then Verstappen moved into second, eventually past Sergio Perez to take the lead, and just never, ever looked back from there. So there's not a huge amount to say on Max, because aside from passing his teammate and pulling out, I think, 2 seconds in his first lap after he got past him, eventually going nearly 21 seconds clear, couldn't have done much more today other than going for fastest lap. Didn't manage to get that fastest lap. He did try, but didn't do it. So that went to Sergio Perez. So a little bit of a quiet one for Max in the end. I think that's quite a reasonable statement. You might disagree. You might think it was incredibly busy for him, but it always looks easy, doesn't it, when a driver disappears 21 seconds up the road? But obviously not easy. I would not, I couldn't even fit in one of these cars. I've said that so many times on this channel, but absolute dominance from Max Verstappen and from Sergio Perez as well in many ways, taking that second place for Red Bull. What was he? 25 seconds up the road from George Russell. Would he have come under threat from Leclerc, do we think, a little bit later in the race with the strategy? Because he dropped to third, hadn't he, through the pit stops. Just trying to wonder. Leclerc was sort of closing in, but not by a massive amount, and then they pitted. Perez was down to third, just got out in front of George Russell because of a slow pit stop. I think it would have been a big ask, because I'm pretty sure Leclerc would have had to make a second stop. There's no doubt about that, because that would have been a big ask to take those tyres. What was it? Wrote it down, 42 laps on a set of hard tyres around Baku. That was a big ask. So I think he probably would have made a second stop, but I still feel like that would have ended as a Red Bull 1-2, regardless of what had happened to the Ferrari. So third place was probably the best for Charles Leclerc today, and second place was probably the best for Sergio Perez. But he got a cracking start, didn't he? Down the inside of of Leclerc into turn one was told by his engineer actually to get your elbows out into turn one, and I was prepared for a massive collision or something, but no, got the move done, built a nice little lead and kind of controlled things from there, but just didn't have the pace. He did say taking a lot out of his tyres quite early on, so that's possibly why that was one of the reasons behind that one, but it's I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, because really we need to talk about Ferrari before I can really go too much on about Red Bull, because it was all between Red Bull and Ferrari. We saw obviously Leclerc on pole position yesterday, and you thought, oh, is he finally going to be able to convert a pole position into victory? And it never really looked like it was going to happen, did it? With Perez throwing it up the inside. I mean, it was a bold stop. It was a bold decision to pit from Leclerc to come in on, what was it, lap 19? No, it was earlier than that, wasn't it? Much earlier than that. So lap 9-10 with the virtual safety car to come in and try and take those tyres 42 laps was a massive ask. We did get the second virtual safety car, which might have helped bring him back into play later on, but he was always out of sync with that. And I know that some drivers did make a one-stop work, but the pace he would have had to kind of demonstrate, he'd have to put so much through those tyres to try and overhaul the Red Bulls or keep them behind. He was probably going to take so much life out of them, he'd need to stop anyway. So, like I say, I think we still were looking at a Red Bull 1-2 today. The race pace in that Red Bull, far better, or feels far better than a Ferrari. When you watch on a Saturday, I kind of go into the weekends thinking, right, Leclerc pole, Red Bull will win it on Sunday. That's what happened this weekend. It's what I said on Thursday. I kind of feel like Ferrari have a marginal advantage on a Saturday, but Red Bull have a much bigger advantage on a Sunday in the race. And of course, the Sunday, obvious statement alert, is where the points are handed out. So Red Bull have got the right car underneath them in many ways. And I don't want to be pessimistic, and I think it's stupid in many ways to sit here and say championship's done, because it's not done. It's absolutely not done at all, because we've had 8 races. There's 22 in this season. There's a long way to go. We saw it looked like Ferrari were in control, and then reliability's come back and bit them, and Red Bull have swung it the other way. That could easily swing back again. But it is starting to feel, looking particularly on Sundays, like Red Bull are going to be the dominant force this season. I don't think we're going to see sort of 2014, 2015 levels of dominance or anything like that, but I do feel like they've got the edge at the moment over Ferrari quite solidly. So, you know, I'd rather... I mean, no, if I'm a racing driver, I'd rather have pole and then go off and win the race every weekend, but I'd rather also have the better car on a Sunday than a Saturday, because that's where the points are handed out, and that's what Red Bull have got. But it's all about reliability today for Ferrari. It was an issue... Well, Sainz stopped on track at turn 3, I think it was. Thought it was a brake-by-wire issue. Turned out to be a hydraulic issue, so that was game over for him pretty early on in the race, around lap 9. And then Charles Leclerc sort of pushing, not too hard, but giving it something, trying to close the gap on the Red Bulls a bit and manage those tyres, those hard tyres I talked about a bit ago. And then his engine went pop on lap 20, and it was all sort of done from there. That was kind of the race, really, wasn't it? That first 20 laps between Red Bull and Ferrari, and the strategy intrigue around that was sort of the race at the front. And then as soon as Leclerc retired, that was it. There was no challenge, because Mercedes aren't going to challenge Red Bull in a standard race, and you know, Alfa Tauri, Aston Martin, they're not going to be anywhere near Red Bull in a standard race. It was just one of those. But I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say on Ferrari. I'm just so frustrated. I saw somebody say in chat actually before the stream started that it felt coming into 2022 like this was finally Ferrari's year, and here we are, and it's all gone to pot already. I know there's a long way to go. It's very hard not to look at Red Bull and think they are the comfortable favourites now, because they've got a great race car. They've got the advantage in the championship. They've got Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez is on fine form as well. His pace disappeared a little bit today, but he's still on fine form generally, so it's going to be tough. And Sainz isn't really there for Ferrari at the moment. He's not having a great run of it. Reliability's against them. Leclerc, I feel like he's doing all he possibly can. Yes, he's making mistakes. We saw in Imola, for example, but I think he's giving it everything he can, and he's not... He's going to struggle to take on 2 Red Bulls with that kind of pace and with drivers in that kind of form. So I still think there's time. There's plenty of time for this to turn around, but at the moment, it'd be a brave person to bet against a Red Bull championship this year, possibly a championship double. And of course, the result does move Perez into second place in the standings. One thing to talk about, I know you'll all want me to. I've seen you all with your conspiracy theories in chat. You're in the right place. You know, I love a conspiracy theory. Sergio Perez told not to fight not Fernando Alonso. He doesn't have to fight Fernando Alonso if he doesn't want to, but Max Verstappen. And Verstappen he made the move into turn one. It was pretty easy with the DRS, and then Perez didn't fight him as well. I don't believe that was a hop out of his way kind of message. I think that was, if Max gets a run, don't do anything stupid. You don't need to be risking this. The team's in control. Ferrari are out of the race. We don't need to risk you two coming together, a la Ricciardo and Verstappen a few years ago at Baku. Let's just get these cars home and get the result. And a lot of people have been quite critical on social media about the Red Bull decision, but I think that criticism kind of disappears pretty much immediately, because Max Verstappen, as I say, pulled out nearly 2 seconds in a lap, so he was clearly quicker. Checo's already said that he took a lot of life out of his tyres. It's the right thing to do as the team, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I think if the boot was on the other foot it would have gone the same way, but as a team decision, it's absolutely the right thing to do. Your main rival is out of the championship. There's no point risking your two drivers coming together. Max was clearly the fastest at that point of the race. It was a no-brainer, but I understand why a lot of Sergio Perez fans are thinking, well, hang on a minute. This is the second time in the last few races that we've had these instructions. It's not fair, but, Checo took a lot of life out of his tyres early on. Max Verstappen didn't. Max was quicker. And ultimately, what was the gap? 21 seconds nearly. So it's not like Checo finished a few tenths behind him in the end. I think I can understand frustration from people, but ultimately, if I'm Christian Horner or whoever on the pit wall, I'm making that same decision, because imagine Ferrari are out of the race. Perez fights hard. There's a little bit of contact. It results in one of them in the wall, and the other one ends up with a puncture and a broken front wing, and you've got a Mercedes 1-2, and all of a sudden you've gone, well, that was a waste of points. I just... Team orders are frustrating. I understand the frustration with team orders. I get them sometimes, but at the same time, it's a team sport as well as an individual sport. So there you go. Anything you want me to say actually on Red Bull? Because I'm looking at it's all about really Ferrari, as I say, with the engine going pop on Leclerc. Sainz's issue with his hydraulics, taking advantage. They didn't pick the first virtual safety car, Red Bull, which was a bit of a surprise. I don't know how you felt about that one, chat. I thought they might pull him in. I know Crofty and Paul di Resta were talking about how Red Bull were in the pits and maybe they tried to bluff Ferrari. I think in that situation it was probably more... I've not got the F1 TV team radio, so I can't check it, but I suspect it's probably more that Verstappen was told to do the opposite of Leclerc. I don't know if that was maybe what went on. Maybe there was a bluff there. I don't know, but I seem to think Checo mentioned... I was sort of setting the stream up and had the reaction on in the background, so sort of listening to interviews. I think Checo said something along the lines of there was a communication issue, so maybe that's part of it, but quite surprised to see they didn't stop at that stage. They've two stopped anyway, out of safety. Christian Horner said at the end they didn't want to risk it, so they pitted under that second virtual safety car, but... what can you say? I mean, it was dominant. As soon as Ferrari dropped out of that race, without Red Bull tripping over themselves, it was done, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Overlord, thank you very much. Says Checo said he missed the call, so that's a good one. And Leclerc was not out yet when the Red Bull orders came. Absolutely not. Which, yeah, like I say, Verstappen pulled out an immediate 2-second gap over Checo, so it was the right decision on pace. It's one of those things, isn't it? If Perez is told not to fight and Verstappen goes past, and then Checo is stuck on his gearbox half a second behind every lap, then you sort of go, actually, maybe you could have left them in the positions they were, but the fact Max just disappeared up the road, it was done. Exactly. Random's boss man says simply faster than Perez is what it is, which is exactly what it was today. So, but I think the big story, obviously Red Bull winning, going top of the champion, staying top of the championship, Perez moving up to second. That's the big story. But I think a bigger story is that Ferrari have really got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it in. It's Canada. Oh my God, I love Canada and I can't wait for that one. But it's Canada next week. It's a big power circuit. Some concerns here for Ferrari. And if let's not try and, depress Ferrari fans anymore. But if we get to Canada and we get a similar situation there, Red Bull are gone. That is going to be really tough to turn around. So a lot of work to do, not a lot of time to do it. And maybe it was just unique to this circuit. It's a big power track. It was quite hot. It might not be quite so hot in Canada. Maybe that's part of it, but work to do, Ferrari. Crack on. We want a championship fight. I say this all the time. I don't care who wins the championship. I just want to see the fight. That's what I want. And if Leclerc could do it this year, that's brilliant. I quite like Checo to do it as well, actually. Checo or Leclerc or Sainz. Another different world champion. I said it the other week when we had Jonty here after Monaco. I like the idea of going through that phase we had a few years ago where you sort of had a different world champion every year. You had Alonso in 2005 and 2006, and then you had Raikkonen in 2007 and Hamilton after that, and then Button, and then Vettel. That was quite a fun time. So I'd like that again. Checo World Championship. You fancy that, Perez fans? You'd be mad if you didn't. If I've missed anything on these, I will come back to them a little bit later in the stream. If you just pop a question in a little bit later, if we've got some time, I'll go over it. Good question from Yuri there. Says, does this mean we get an engine penalty for Leclerc anytime soon? That is something I did put in my notes, which I was going to do it a little bit later, but I'll do it now, actually. The other problem Ferrari have now got is, although Red Bull have also had their issues as well, Ferrari's looks a bit more engine related. You know, they had their fuel pump problems and all, whatever it was in Bahrain and in Australia, but these have been big power unit fair. I mean, Leclerc, smoke pouring out the back of the car. You know, we don't see that a lot in F1 these days. We used to all the time. So that's gone pop. The problem now is Ferrari will probably know they're going to have to take penalties later in the season, and that could cost them more points again. So to answer your question, Yuri, I think absolutely there will be penalties for Ferrari later in the season, because I don't see how, you know, we're a third of the way through the season now, just over maybe. I don't see how they're going to get all the way there without having to take penalties. I think every team will take a penalty at some point, but Ferrari might have to take an extra one, which could be absolutely critical. But it'll be, you know, they'll pick a track to do it out. They won't do it at Monza. They want the best result they can there. That's. I think it's almost inevitable we're going to get penalties for those guys as well, which will be a big drop as well. A big drop if they've got to change the lot. They really will. I think Carlos Sainz will be a little bit concerned. I've not got the list of components in front of me, actually. I suspect Carlos Sainz has got quite a few more problems in that area than Charles Leclerc potentially with a penalty. So, I don't know. Clay says Ferrari needed a bigger cooling package, it seems. It could have been a cooling issue, of course. Like I said, it was quite warm. Anything else on Ferrari and Red Bull before I roll on to Mercedes? We can do some Q&A a little later if I've missed anything. As I always say, this isn't a review, it is a reaction. So I'm not going to get over everything. I'm bound to miss something is what I'm saying. So yeah, Patrick, you can have your last comment on this one. Says, I wouldn't worry about reliability. At least the performance is there. And as per the current regs, they will be able to fix reliability and not increase power. That's a great point, actually. You can tweak to fix reliability this year. They can't make it quicker. So I suppose, Patrick, is that one of those? They say it a lot, don't they? We've said it on the channel before. It's better to have, or it's easier to make a fast car reliable than it is to make a reliable car fast. Ask Honda from a few years ago. So I think that's kind of where I'd sit on that one. I think I'd rather have a fast car and be able to make it reliable, which of course Patrick said they can do over the course of the season. So yeah, I'm frustrated. I just want a really close championship fight. It's not that I'm a big Ferrari fan or anything like that. I think we all are deep down inside. But I just want a really great title fight, and we're not. There's still plenty of time, but it feels like it's swung really far the other way now, and Ferrari have got, as I said a couple of times already, a lot of work to do, and races are going to come thick and fast. We've got Montreal next week, Canadian Grand Prix, then a week off, then we've got Silverstone and Austria back-to-back, then a week off, then France and Hungary back-to-back, and then it's a summer break. And if Ferrari can't get that sorted by the time we get to summer break, Red Bull could be gone. They could be gone. And I've seen people in chat. I'm sure there are people listening right now going, I think Red Bull have already gone, Sean, mate. I think that's it. But what Ferrari need is not only to get these problems sorted, they need Carlos Sainz to kind of step up a little bit as well. We said this the other week, didn't we? He needs to start driving a bit more on instinct, I think somebody said, which was a really good way of wording that. I think Sainz is a super quick guy, but it's just not working for him at the moment. And there's the picture on stream now of the engine going pop. Not quite as dramatic as the old V10s used to go. Christ, did they go with a bang. They did, didn't they? Back in the day. But like I say, not much more to say on Red Bull. Let's have a quick look through my notes while I'm here and just double check. We've done the Perez stuff. Didn't pit under the first virtual safety car, but didn't matter as it turned out. Elbows out into turn one. We've done that. We've done the no fighting. I think I said about the slow stop for Checo. His slow first stop was 5.7 seconds and then came out on track literally just in front of George Russell. That could have been quite painful for him, but hey, he got there. He got second place. It's great points for him. It's kind of nice to see Checo up in second place in the championship as well. Not if you're a Charles Leclerc fan, but it is for Sergio Perez. So good for him. George Russell, third place today, because when there's a little bit of drama ahead, guess who's always there to capitalise on it? He did pit under the first virtual safety car, which was a smart move, and he did actually pit under the second one, according to my notes as well. So I obviously saw that and wrote it down, but that's good stuff for him. Third place and fourth place for Lewis Hamilton as well. It still feels weird saying this, even though we're 8 races into this season. Third and fourth today is a cracking result for Mercedes. Christ, who thought we'd ever be saying that? Who honestly thought we'd ever be saying that? So third and fourth for Mercedes today, some pretty big points. I think they're on for third, aren't they? I don't see that changing. The constructors, I think they've got third place all but sewn up if they want it. 25 seconds behind Perez in the end was Russell. 25 seconds behind Russell was Lewis Hamilton. So nice and consistent there between the two of them. The big talking point there with Mercedes this weekend, because I've not got a lot to say on Russell. It's not that he didn't have a good race. It's just that he always looks comfortable in P5, and if you lose a couple of cars in front, he's always going to be there on the podium, isn't he? So he just had a quiet, consistent race in terms of pace. I think they started calling him Mr. Consistency over the radio now, which kind of sums up George Russell absolutely perfectly at the moment. That's exactly what he's doing, and that's what he needs to do in that car. I don't want to use my cliche line, but I'm gonna use it. I know a lot of people go, "Oh, he's been savage. It's just this look, Sean. It's all luck." But he's there to capitalise on the look. Nobody else is. Hamilton's not there to capitalise on the look. Gasly, Ricciardo, whoever, they're not there. Russell is there. So when that look falls his way, he's snatching that opportunity, and he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. First year in that Mercedes, I still think, and it's not often I praise one of my own theories because I'm usually crackers with it, but I still think having those sort of 3 years in a tricky Williams is helping him drive around some of the Mercedes problems. I really do. But big thing is this weekend for Mercedes is porpoising. I said on Thursday, I'm not convinced it's gone away. It doesn't look like it's gone away. I think the bouncing, it's a bouncy track anyway, a bumpy track. So I think the bouncing, that's partially what it is. But the porpoising was horrendous at times. But let's just say the bouncing in general was horrendous in times in that Mercedes, to the point where Lewis Hamilton came over the radio today and said that his back was killing him. He was in absolute agony with his back. A lot of drivers now starting to come round to this argument that, maybe something needs to be done about this because drivers have been really put through it. It has led to some conversations that the FIA might step in and bring in a regulation. I think they talked in commentary, maybe like having a blanket rule that your car must be a minimum of this far up, on ride height. But I don't agree with slowing other teams down because others couldn't get it right. So Red Bull, they have porpoising. Red Bull have porpoising, but nowhere near as bad as anybody else. Ferrari have really bad porpoising, but are still super quick. Mercedes have horrendous porpoising, not quite so quick, but look like the third fastest car out there. There are teams out there, McLaren don't seem to have bad porpoising, although Ricciardo said today that he still struggled with it, even though it wasn't all that bad. There are teams in this field who have found a way to make their car work either with or without the porpoising, and cars that don't have much porpoising, if any at all. Is it really then fair to change the regulations so that Mercedes can get rid of the porpoising, or Alpha Tauri, if they're struggling with the porpoising, can get rid? It doesn't feel like a very fair thing to do. It's a bit like the weight limit increase. When they raised the minimum weight limit because nobody could get down to it, but Alfa Romeo were like, hang on a minute, we've got down to this. Why should we have to suffer because others can't? And I kind of feel that's my view on it. At the end of the day, it may not be as simple as just raising the ride height, but if the ride height, raising that a little bit, can bring that down to a decent level or a manageable level for drivers, then just do it. And if you lose pace, I hate to say it, but that's your problem. It's a sport at the end of the day. We're not here. If we're going to start, it's like the cost cap. If we're going to start raising the cost cap because teams can't stay within it, then you might as well get rid of the cost cap. If we're going to start changing the rules because 5 teams or 4 teams or whatever are having really bad porpoising and can't make it work, then you might as well start thinking about crap like spec cars. Let's make it all nice and even. It's a sport. It's a big sport. It's a world championship. Formula One is always about the best cars and the best drivers. So, and not just that, but the best mechanics and the best engineers and the best designers. So find your way around it. And if it means you lose a few tenths of a second because you've got to run your car a little bit higher, tough. Get the car in, get it sorted. I know it sounds so easy, sat here in my chair, talking to you guys on streamers, just a fan going, just sort it. It can't be that hard. But you see what I'm saying? It seems a little bit ridiculous to just be, Mercedes are struggling, so let's change the rules, or Alpha Tauri are struggling, let's bring in a rule on ride height, and then Red Bull are going, well, ours isn't that bad. Why have we got to potentially make changes to our car to make it work because we've got to raise the ride height because somebody else couldn't get it right? It's a very weird thing. I don't know what, if it's... Trying to think of an example off the top of my head of when, I suppose the tyres a few years ago when Pirelli changed the tyres mid-season. If you get what I mean, they changed the tyres mid-season because some were struggling and some weren't, and that gave some an advantage and took some pace away from others. I don't agree with that. I don't. The rules are the rules. You've been working on this for 2 years at least, probably longer now. We had the break, didn't we, in 2021 where we didn't have these regulations. So just work on it, find a way around it. If you can't fix it for this year, you'll just have to give up on this car and work on next year. It sucks. I wouldn't want to be George Russell or Lewis Hamilton in those cars. I certainly wouldn't want to be Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz in their cars either. It looks horrible. It looks absolutely horrible. But that's part of it. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez aren't having that problem. Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, whilst suffering with porpoising, haven't got it that bad. I don't know. I'm also not convinced that porpoising is the biggest issue either with the pace of that Mercedes, because look at the porpoising in the Ferrari. I would argue it's as bad, if not worse, than the Mercedes on some tracks, and they're still able to stick it on pole position. So there's more going on there, definitely. But there'll be a change to the regulations, I'm sure. But I don't necessarily agree with that. If they can find a way to do it so that it keeps the drivers safe and it isn't an issue in that regard, if that's what they're thinking, that it's a safety issue, then my opinion kind of changes a little bit, because if it is safety, then they have to do something, because we don't want drivers with, I don't know, a concussion or with serious spinal injuries or anything like that. If it's for safety, changes need to be made across the board. But if it's just people moaning, because at the end of the day, if this is, and this is a big if before anyone starts, if this is just down to ride height and Mercedes are truly that concerned about their drivers, raise your ride height. You know, Toto Wolff was saying we're not sure if the drivers can finish the race. Raise your ride height then. It sounds so easy. I don't think it is just a ride height issue. It can't be just a ride height issue. But if it is, then raise the ride height. That's my view. But like I say, safety issue. If the FIA have got to step in, I will understand it. If it is just because some teams are sulking because they can't get it right, then tell them to get on with it and get their head out their arse and do their job properly, basically. Again, easier said than done. Please have a go at me for that one. It is easier said than done. It's easy for me to sit here banging on about it, and you guys in chat as well, but we wouldn't have a clue where to start, would we really? Unless there's any engineers in the chat. If there is, let me know what you can do with the ride height. That's just my view. We don't need to pander to everybody. But again, I'll reiterate it, because there are not necessarily listening to this now, but maybe later on when they catch up on it, there'll be people who choose to pick out the bits they want to and not listen to the rest of it. If it is truly a safety issue, the FIA has to step in. If it is just because some teams are sulking because they're not quick enough, then the FIA needs to tell them to get on with it. That's that. Otherwise, cracking race from Mercedes today. Great drive from Lewis Hamilton, despite the problems it was having with the porpoising. I think he got official driver of the day as well, which is quite a fantastic achievement. He doesn't seem to win all that many, does Lewis Hamilton? When he was winning races and world championships, he didn't seem to get many. So that's something for him. But he looked really uncomfortable getting out of that car. So my suspicion is a change will be made on safety grounds. I don't know when. I can't see it being before Canada. Yeah. We'll leave it there on porpoising. I'll read some of your comments, because I'm sure some of you will totally disagree with me. Human spine not made to take those kind of pressures. Absolutely, Mike. As I was saying, if it's a safety thing, they've got to do something. But we have to remember as well. And I hate to. I'm trying not to be like talk down to anyone. We have to remember as well that teams have their own interests at heart. They're not that bothered about what other people are doing. If they think, well, you know, look, we could maybe do this, and then we can get the FIA to change the rule, blah, blah, blah. You know, take what it's just like the driver salary cap. Take what Toto Wolff says with a pinch of salt, because he's got his own financial interest in to deal with there. Take what the drivers say with a pinch of salt, because they've got their own financial interest to think of, and that's kind of what Formula One is. But like I say, safety grounds, Mike, absolutely make the changes. Otherwise, let them get on with it. What happened to Bottas and Alfa? We'll get to those a little bit later. Dumb Things Science, great name, by the way. Anything else on the porpoising for Mercedes for a roll on super quickly? I will talk about the duct tape on the AlphaTauri a little bit later. Zach says it's ride height plus stiff suspension, as far as I know. That actually makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Zach. That makes a lot of sense, because it was the stiffness of the ride, wasn't it, in Monaco, that was causing the little bit of bouncing they had there. So that's a very good point. Thank you very much. And again, Mike, back on the spinal thing, completely agree with you there. I'll reiterate it again for those listening later. Safety issue, change it. If not, leave them to it, is kind of my view. Obviously, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is a safety thing. It looks like it should be a safety thing, but there's lots of things that have happened in F1 that look like they should have been a safety thing, and then they wait until somebody's dead before they do anything about it. And DGA Red Raven says, you're forgetting is that the engineers don't care if the drivers get injured long term as long as they drive fast. That's why the FIA must step in if genuine, and why Mercedes can't just raise it. That's a fair point. Like, that's sort of what I was saying. See, you guys in chat are so much more concise about it. I'm sat here trying to explain the teams have their own interest, and that's Red Raven nailing it there. Teams don't really care as long as the drivers are quick. That's why the FIA needs to step in. Thank you. Just take that. Let's roll on. Let's roll on for porpoising. And the last one for the top 4 teams, as it is, I suppose, or top 3 teams and Ferrari, is Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda at AlphaTauri. Gasly, superb drive to 5th place today. Where's that pace been? I know he said pre-race that they were very much... it was about sort of managing their expectations a little bit, but when they get to tracks where they know they should be quick, they need to maximise that result. That's exactly what he's done today. 5th place, yeah, all right, a fair way off the lead, 77 seconds, but he's not really winning it anyway, but only 5.6 behind Lewis Hamilton in the end. I know Hamilton overtook him, but that's still a fantastic result for Pierre Gasly and some pretty hefty points for AlphaTauri. They've had a bit of a... Gasly's been an interesting one for me this season. He's had a very up and down season, and he's not really... initially built on what he did last year, so I hope this is one of those results that is really the catalyst for him kicking on. And if they were strong here, they might be quite strong in Canada with that long back straight. So great stuff from Pierre Gasly. Couple of notes on Gasly actually, as I just have a quick drink. Sorry about that. Pierre Gasly, virtual safety car pit stop, the first virtual safety car, so around lap 9:10. Nice little pass on Ricciardo into turn 3 or 4 on lap 22. But what I really enjoyed for Gasly today was the fight that he had with Ricciardo. Some really good battling there between those two. And I quite... It's weird how these things work out in Formula One. A lot of rumours this last week, and I'm not going to get into it today, but a lot of rumours this last week about Ricciardo's future and people saying, hey, look at Pierre Gasly, get him in that McLaren. Isn't it then amazing that you rock up on Sunday and you've got Gasly versus Ricciardo on the track? It's like it's written. It's like it's all scripted. It really is just a huge coincidence, but really enjoyed that fight between those two. And massive kudos to Gasly for that result. Yuki Tsunoda as well. I want to give him a lot of love. Sounds weird, but I think he had a really, really solid race. I think he was running 6th before he had some issues. So he was running up in 6th place, was racing really nicely. Looked like we were looking for a really big haul of points for AlphaTauri, and then he had a lock-up at the virtual safety car restart. So he pitted on the first virtual safety car, didn't pit under the second one, locked up at the restart. Don't know what damage that did to him, but then his DRS broke. And when I mean broke, it broke in the most... If you've not seen it, try and find a clip on social media. It broke in the most bizarre way I've ever seen. We've seen DRS not open. We've seen it fully open. We've seen it tip back and won't shut again. I have never seen a DRS literally broken in half. A rear wing, top flap, broken in half. And I've drawn a little diagram in my notes because I'm like an artist, I'm telling you. So to give you an idea, if you didn't see it, the AlphaTauri says on the rear wing, AlphaTauri, pretty much right down the middle of that. When the DRS opened, it left the word Alpha, and when it closed, it said AlphaTauri. So it was the Tauri side of that rear wing that was snapped in half, and it was really weird. He got the black and orange flag, which was absolutely the right thing to do. Had to come into the pits to get that repaired, and repaired is a stretch of a word, I think, because they just gaffer taped it down or duct tape it down, did AlphaTauri. Apparently the FIA came to have a look, but Tsunoda had already left, so they gaffer taped it down to make sure it didn't keep opening, was told not to use the DRS anymore. I'm going to be honest, I was fully expecting a black flag. That might sound really harsh on Yuki because it's not his fault, but I really thought the FIA might throw a black flag for that, because sticking your rear wing down with a bit of duct tape doesn't seem like a particularly safe thing to do. However, if he's been told to keep it shut and not use it, and the gaffer tape is working, or the duct tape, whatever you want to call it, is working, I guess it doesn't matter, does it? They fixed it. The rear wing is no longer dangerous in the sense that he can't open it, he's not going to close it and open it, it's not being used, and they've stuck it down. So if it works, it works, but it does feel like a bit of a risk. And given how risk-averse the FIA have been recently, I'm quite surprised they didn't call him in and either tell them to fix it properly or black flag it. But it was sort of amusing. If John T was here, he'd be telling me off now, saying it shouldn't be funny, it's a safety issue, but I thought it was quite amusing. They're just there, all this technology in Formula One and the things they do, and they're there with some sticky tape basically trying to stick this rear wing down. I found that quite funny, but... Look, a fix is a fix. I'm so bad at DIY. I am so bad at DIY, as my office will say. Some interesting decisions in here, but I think that fix was okay. I just thought that the FIA might get a little bit pissy about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. Not a black flag, since that is for disqualification. That's that's what I mean, Joel. If they've caught him in with a black and orange flag to get it repaired, if he's then brought it in and it's not been repaired to the FIA's satisfaction, they can and often do in that situation when it occurs throw a black flag because they're not happy with the work. They might have given him, Joel, another black and orange flag and say no, come on, let's do it properly, or make sure that is down. Let us inspect it first, but. They could have very easily thrown a black flag to disqualify him if they weren't happy with that, because that's a safety thing. Back to the porpoising, if it's a safety thing, the FIA will step in. It's what they do. But I think the result is great for Gasly. It's a nice 10 points for AlphaTauri, but I actually think, exactly, Martin, if it works, it works. I like that. Love it. But I think AlphaTauri can be happy overall with both drivers' performances today and this weekend, actually. I think Tsunoda, I say it every week now, I think he's already coming on leaps and bounds, isn't he? I did get a super chat earlier, which I think was from Kazoo. I might be wrong. Says, thank you very much for the super chat, by the way. Says, wonder if Lando's antics will be looked at by McLaren. Clay said, maybe Red Bull using pit stops to stop Perez. I doubt it, but I like conspiracy theories. Thank you very much for your super chat. I love a conspiracy theory. So, Clay, if you are causing trouble in the chat with conspiracies, keep it up. But be nice. It's just a theory. It doesn't mean anything. Where did we get to? Sebastian Vettel, 6th place. So, Aston Martin, Stroll, DNF. Sebastian Vettel, really racy today. I love it. I love it when Sebastian Vettel gets to be proper racy out there, getting side by side, getting his elbows out. I love seeing it because it's a little reminder that he's still there, and it's a reminder that he still enjoys his racing. There was one interesting moment where he tried, or a couple of interesting moments actually, he tried to move around the outside of Esteban Ocon at turn 3 and got the move done, but then went in really deep and locked up and had to run into the escape road so he didn't end up in the wall. And then we saw this beautiful pirouette. I mean, there are judges on Strictly Come Dancing that would have been impressed with that. It was such a beautiful pirouette for Sebastian Vettel to get the car right back on track. Absolutely brilliant. Lost a bit of time, maybe 6, 7, 8 seconds, something like that, maybe. But could have been so much worse. We've seen like 25-point turns down those escape roads this weekend. So to just spin it like that beautifully, get on just behind Tsunoda, recovered so well. I mean, I suppose you could argue it was a silly mistake in a way, because where could he have been? Would he have been ahead of Gasly? Could he have been ahead of Hamilton? But still, 6th place for Aston Martin. They've got to be thrilled with that. Did try the move again on Ocon a few laps later when he caught him, but tried around the outside, and I thought he tagged the wall, but he seemed to get hit a bump or something, which destabilised his car a bit and got a wiggle on, which looked like it was going to end in a massive crash, but he kind of bailed out of that one. But still, got the move done in the end through pit stops and all other stuff, and it was just nice to see him being properly racy. And I enjoy it when Seb's having fun, because when Seb's having fun, we're all having fun. His teammate, though, not a lot of fun this weekend, and not really a lot to say, to be honest. Qualified 19th, was running well down the field. Yeah, retired, was told over the radio, high oscillation. The team couldn't work out why or what was going on, so they decided to retire him. That was on lap 48, but Lance Stroll didn't qualify well, didn't race particularly well, and then retired with a mechanical issue. So, yeah. What do you want me to say on Stroll? I can go for it if you like. I can make up something. Whoa, what a driver. Did you see the movie made on Yuri Vips? Let's talk about Yuri Vips now. But yeah, great result for Aston Martin. 15 points now in the championship in total, all but 2 from Sebastian Vettel. So it's a nice little jump for them. It looks like we're going to see Williams in last place this season at the moment, but still great result for Aston. I'm just happy to see Seb racing, and I just hope that Stroll can. It feels like, normally I'd say something like, if Stroll could sort out his Saturdays, he'd be even better. We'd get a great result on a Sunday. There was a point, maybe not last year, but a couple of years ago, particularly 2020, he had quite a good start to the year where he was having sort of more sloppy qualifyings than he should be having. Not quite as bad as this weekend, but sloppy qualifyings. And then Sunday, he was just brilliant, and he came through the field and he got a great result, and you're like, yeah, that's what he does. He's not great on Saturday, but he's solid on a Sunday, and if he can just sort his Saturdays out, I feel like we're at a point with Stroll now where he needs to sort his Saturdays and his Sundays out, because he doesn't seem, whether he's not comfortable in that car. I mean, I can have a look and see if Aston have sent the press release through. I've got 6 messages. No, thank you, Virgin Media. I don't want my bill just yet, thanks. I'm streaming. If anyone wants to pay that, feel free. See what Lance says. It's a shame that we had to retire the car. The engineers, sorry for punching the mic, because the car was suffering from vibration issues, so they asked me to retire the car. We're still not sure what the problem was, so that's not been sorted yet. They'll investigate it. Great result for Sebastian Vettel. Nothing really other than he's looking forward to his home race. So I don't know if there's something else going on. Maybe Lance just not comfortable in the car. I don't know, but just frustrating. Vettel showing today there's pace in that car. So, yeah, I think I've upset somebody. Sorry, I'm just going to go into chat and find out who it is. I want to apologise to the Hap Russ for telling me off for calling it duct tape. It was speed tape. I apologise. Look, it's tape. At least it didn't say sellotape or Pritt stick. That could have been worse. But, yes, it was speed tape, just to confirm that. For those concerned or frustrated with the way I'm referring to that sticky stuff that's tape that they use to stick the rear wing down on Tsunoda's car. Yeah. That's it for for Aston Martin. Not anything else. Just checking my notes. Nothing else to add to that one. I'm just happy to see Seb up there. A lot of people in chat, I think, will be happy with that one. James says Stroll's peak was defo 2020, fourth in the championship after Monza. That was to somebody else. But yeah, I think 2020 got that pole, didn't he, in Turkey as well. He had a great start to the season. He got COVID, didn't he, around the Nürburgring and never really bounced back after that. So I wonder if maybe there's, I don't know. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that one. I've already upset people with porpoising, so let's not start on that one. Well, who's next? Quick shot. Alonso. Yes, Alpine. There was a point in that race where I thought, I've written my notes. I'm keeping an eye. So this was me writing live. I'm keeping an eye on Alonso. He might nick something here. It just felt like the strategy had worked out quite nicely for him. His pace was pretty solid. He was making some nice overtakes, and I thought, just hang on a minute here. We've lost the two Ferraris. It's Baku. There could still be more chaos yet. As it turned out, there wasn't really. But there could be some more chaos. Alonso's on for something here. So, 7th place from, 10th on the grid, I think it was, isn't a bad result. But I'm disappointed because I expected more from him about halfway through that race. So, Fernando, really good drive, some really nice overtaking. Nice to see him battling as well. 7th place is good points on the board, especially he's had a bit of an up and down season as Fernando. So to get some points on the board is always nice. But I just feel like I was expecting more. So it's not a criticism of Alonso. It's a criticism of me expecting too much and getting excited midway that we might get a shock Alonso podium or a top 5 finish or something like that. But I think he drove really nicely today. Let's have a quick check. Yeah, pitted lap 10 under that first virtual safety car. Passed Ocon for P9 on lap 27. That's when I started to wonder if he was going to come through. But he sort of, maybe that was it for him. 4.4 behind Vettel in the end. Maybe that was as far as he could have got today. But it's points, isn't it? And that's what Alpine need. Ocon, yeah, 10th place. 13th on the grid to 10th. The thing with Ocon is it's another weekend of just defending, but this time he didn't chop the nose off of Mercedes. But I really enjoyed his defence with Vettel, as I've already talked about in that little battle. That was a fun one to watch. Ocon's impressed me this season. I think he's had a really solid start, possibly even stronger than last year versus Alonso. I know Alonso's had some reliability problems and a bit of bad luck, but again, back to that saying of mine, he's there to pick up the pieces when his teammate isn't finishing, so got to give him credit there. But I think Alpine have got to be happy with 7th and 10th today. I can't help but feel there's a little bit more there. Am I being harsh? Am I? Maybe I am. I don't know. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's sick of looking at the back of Alpines. I know that for sure. Absolutely. Spent most of Monaco, it felt like, stuck behind a 5 second a lap slower Alonso, and then had to spend a big chunk of today's race behind Esteban Ocon. But it was really slippery in a straight line today for Alpine. They definitely focused on the race pace rather than qualifying, which was, I think, the right thing to do for them. So they were nice and slippery in a straight line. We're good to overtake. We're good to defend. I think that worked out quite nicely for them. But I expected more. That's all. So if I'm being harsh, I apologise to Alpine. I apologise to Alpine fans. I apologise to Alonso and to Ocon. But I just felt like it's points on the board, isn't it? At the end of the day. So just trying to think. Actually, might have, because one thing. Sure, yeah. Because did Gasly make a second stop? No, he didn't. So he might have, as Gasly's tyres were going off a bit, if he'd been a little bit closer. Might have had a go, but yeah, 6th, 7th, that kind of area, about right, really. And absolutely, at least they finished today, says Red Raven. Spoiler alert, That's your alert, unlike their Le Mans entry. So, anybody been watching Le Mans? I've not really caught much of it, so not a great surprise. I did watch the Indy 500 for the first time. We went and watched it after the stream on Monaco. King Marcus of Ericsson, massive congratulations to him. The great King Marcus of Ericsson, of course. That was a nice little moment, and yeah, I actually enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I know I should do, because it's good fun. Before we roll on, please do drop a like. 190 likes so far, 1,400 of you watching. Thank you for tuning in for my post-race solo ramblings. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you very much for coming along. Please do drop a like. Always appreciated. If you've got any comments, you can pop them in throughout, but save them up if you've got something you really need to ask me, and we'll do it after I've gone through the rest of the field in a very short Q&A today. What time are we at? Yes, I need to be cracking on, so thank you very much. I'm trying not to rush through it, but I want to try and get through the order, because I think it's the best way to do these streams, is get that bit done, and then we can talk about the race in general a bit more. Where do we get to then? So McLaren, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. Really fascinating race between those two, because they were basically together. I mean, they qualified together 11th and 12th, and then they were both basically together for the entire ruddy race. A lot of team orders going on there. Ricciardo was told in the first stint to hold position because Lando was trying to overtake or to overcut Alonso, so the McLaren was given the best opportunity to do that. Ricciardo was absolutely the quicker of the two at that stage. Again, easy for me to say, if I were team boss, I'd have swapped them over, because Ricciardo was quicker at that stage. Maybe could have got an even better result there, but they wanted to work as a team. That's what they did. Didn't quite work out, because he was quite a way behind Alonso in the end, because Alonso's pace was pretty solid. And then towards the end of the race, there was some talk, Norris wanting to go past Ricciardo, and there was a bit of conversation going on there, and the team sort of said, look, I'll tell you what, and I think this is a good way to handle it in that situation. I'll tell you what, you close up to him, and when you catch him, we will swap you around. You will then get a crack at Alonso. If you can't make that move, you've then got to swap positions back. I think that's a really sensible thing to do, and I like hearing that. I'm sure he would have given it back. We saw it with Hamilton and Bottas. Hamilton in a title fight, and he still did that one, didn't he, at the end? So he still swapped back in Hungary with Bottas. He stayed true to his word, and we've seen it with other drivers as well. So I'm pretty sure Norris would have done. But then we got a little bit further into the race, and the engineer kind of called to say, let's hold position, because that's all the pace we've got, and Alonso's quick. So it was sort of the takeaway from that. And Norris was questioning, well, hang on a minute, why are we doing this? His engineer told him, well, we did it earlier in the race for Ricciardo, so, we're going to return the favour. And Norris was like, yeah, but this is for position. That was for strategy. He's a racing driver, and I get his point. And I side with him a little bit, because he felt quicker. He wanted to overtake. He wanted to have a crack at Alonso. I get that, and it was for position, but it was for 8th and 9th position. We're not talking about a championship here. McLaren are not going to be challenging for the championship. They are not going to be challenging for the drivers or the constructors. So they need to maximise their team result, and that's what they did today. And it doesn't matter what order the drivers are in for them in that situation. I think that was I think the racing driver in Lando wanted that, but I think when they sit him down in the debrief and they explain everything about that race and what was going on and what they needed, and Alonso's pace and Ricciardo's pace and what had happened earlier in the race, he'll probably sit down and go, that's fair enough. But in the heat of battle, he wants to go through, and I sort of get that. It's why I will always defend Sebastian Vettel about the multi-21 thing. It was a team order. Probably should have done as he was told, but as a racing driver, he wants to win, and he wants to pass his teammate and beat his teammate, so I totally get it. And that's not quite to the same extent today as multi-21, but you get what I'm saying. I think that was, but there's a picture there, Ricciardo was vulnerable to Gasly for quite a while in that race, and Norris was not all that quick. Ricciardo was clearly quicker, and Ricciardo followed those orders, so I think Norris should have sort of given it that's fine. And then had a moan a little bit later. But I don't think he was being... I've seen a few people, as people do on social media for some reason, throw abuse around, but I think that's a little bit harsh. But, put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in his shoes. With respect to Ricciardo, Norris is very much the team leader there. He felt he was quicker. My argument will always be, and it's the same for Verstappen in Spain. Although he had the DRS issues, I know, but Verstappen in Spain, it'd be the same for Leclerc if he wanted team orders against Sainz. If you truly are quicker than the driver in front, overtake him. If you feel you're that much quicker, Lando, make the move, and you don't need team orders. But from a team perspective, absolutely the right call. And it was nice to see actually that fight between Norris and Ricciardo and Gasly getting involved, and then seeing them come back at other drivers. It was a real. A lot of people will say that it was a bit of a dull race. I thought it was actually quite an interesting race because we got to see some nice battling in the midfield. There wasn't. We saw Ocon being quite defensive against Vettel, but we didn't see a lot of other drivers able to defend this weekend. It was very much once the DRS was open, you were in trouble. But it was nice when we did get to see that action. But there was action through the field, some really interesting strategy stuff, and we had some inter-team stuff, which is always quite interesting. So yeah, I'm pretty much enjoyed that. Nice little fight. But no, I don't think Norris deserves the stick he's getting at all. I'm fully aware that as a Brit saying that, I know what that's going to come across as, but it's not that at all. I just think the team wanted to maximise the results. That's the right decision to call the team orders. And if Norris was quicker, then go through. But I also understand his frustration. That's it. I think the most important thing for McLaren today is it's 2 cars to the end of the race and in the points. A better weekend for Daniel Ricciardo, which is a massive positive going into the rest of this season. So I guess what I want to say on Ricciardo is let's hope this is, as I said about Gasly, the catalyst, but to a bigger extent, that kickstarts Daniel Ricciardo's season because he's really struggled. He was adamant start of the weekend he's staying at McLaren next year. He's got a contract. We'll see. We will see. I think if he gets it right, he's going to be fine. But there you go. Let's see what you guys say on the McLaren stuff before I roll on to the next team, which will be Alfa Romeo. Drivers should race but not defend against teammates, said RC Ritter. I think that's fair. I think that's kind of what I felt about the Red Bull thing. They were sort of racing, but he was told not to fight. Checo was told not to fight him, so as soon as he got alongside, just let him go. No point risking it, is there? Definitely. In terms of pure excitement, I still think Saudi has been the best race of the year, says Clay. Interesting one. I really enjoyed Bahrain, but I like the DRS tactical stuff in Saudi was quite exciting, wasn't it? Last show I made a comment about older drivers and spines. Your guest said I was wrong. What do you say now, says Patrick? I don't know. I didn't answer your question, Patrick. So that's one to direct to my guest. I can't remember who it was now. Whoever my guest was on Twitter and asked that question there. I'm not going to answer for him, but thank you very much for your question. As I've said, I'll repeat it with the whole porpoising thing. If it's a safety issue, the FIA needs to step in. If it's just teams moaning they've not got it right, then tough. But the FIA will have all the information. They've got all the data. They'll be able to look at it and say, do you know what? Yeah, this is a proper issue, and the drivers are pretty clear it is. So I think something will be done about that. And we don't want drivers with spinal injuries. We absolutely don't. Actually, what I will say, Patrick, is I'm only 36, and I tell you now, my spine is knackered compared to what it was when I was 21. So, what's Alonso, 93? Bless him. He's only about 40, 41, something around there. So it's going to be worse for him. And he's probably better than mine, actually. He's fitter than I am, isn't he? So there you go. Sergio Let It Go says, Mbal, and one more. Tenesh says, why was Vettel not investigated? The rejoin was very dangerous. I mean, he waited for Tsunoda and there was nothing after Tsunoda. I'll admit, I did wince as he kind of comes back on and you think, oh, is he going to catch Tsunoda as he's coming around? But he did wait enough. I think he's okay. I think that's why it wasn't investigated in the end. One more. I want something on McLaren before we roll on and see if anybody said anything. If not, I will leave it at that point. Raul, there you go. Question: did McLaren screw up by not letting Daniel Ricciardo overtake Ricciardo? Ricciardo got passed by Gasly. I do think, again, if I was in that team position, that team manager position, as I will be in August when F1 Manager comes out, if I'm in that management position, I am absolutely swapping those drivers over because Ricciardo was quicker and it left him vulnerable to Gasly, and as you say, it kind of compromised him there. So I think there could have been a better result for Ricciardo today had they swapped them over, but I think they were just trying to get the best team result, and it worked out for them 8th and 9th, but I think they could have been looking at not a big difference, maybe 7th and 8th or 6th and 8th or something like that. But yeah, maybe 6th and 9th, I don't know. It's a good point. Valtteri Bottas, Alfa Romeo. What have I got in my notes? Literally nothing on Valtteri Bottas, which is a shame. I'm not sure if there were some team orders at one stage because Zhou was absolutely flying. He is pre-retirement one of my drivers of the day. He's not going to win driver of the day, don't worry about that, but he is one of my drivers of the day. He was having a fantastic race up to that point. He'd come through quite nicely from P14, was running inside the top 10, I believe, running P10 when he suddenly got the call that he got a technical issue, had to retire the car. I was gutted for him because he was racing so well today. And I think today's performance from Zhou was better than his performance in Bahrain, where he scored that point. I think that's his best performance of the season up until his mechanical issue. And I actually feel a bit sorry for him today. He sounded really frustrated and gutted over the radio, disappointed not to be able to get that result over the line. I think he put in a really great showing today. I think there might have been some team orders because he was so quick and they looked like a fairly easy move. Zhou on Bottas down the straight at one point, so I wouldn't be surprised if Alfa made that decision. And if that is the case, going back to the McLaren thing, absolutely right decision at the end of the day. But yeah, I think Zhou was pretty stellar today. I was impressed with him, definitely. Paid quarter saying Zhou could have been P6 today. So he was P8 P10 when he retired. He had the pace, didn't he? He could have been up there mixing it with Vettel and Alonso and co. Definitely. So I'm like Ricardo, like Gasly, I'm hoping Zhou can really sort of get over the disappointment of the power unit issues or whatever they were and just sit back and say, right, that was a really good drive. Let's build from here, because I think he's under a little bit of pressure. I think Alfa will stick with him for next year, but he's under a little bit of pressure. Let's have a look and see if we've had anything from them. They're quite slow, Alfa Romeo, at sending emails out. So I might not hear anything before the end of this stream, but really good from him. Again, not much on Bottas. P11, okay pace towards the end. In fact, actually pretty damn good pace. 1.2 seconds quicker than Esteban Ocon. So those tyres were really going off for Ocon. So, I reckon a couple of laps, maybe 3 laps more, and Bottas is right on the back of Ocon and maybe nicking a point. So obviously that goes into the same category as if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. But if there were a few more laps, maybe get rid of those, a couple of those VSC laps or whatever, and maybe Bottas could have challenged for a point today. But yeah, not much on Valtteri to say today. But I think Alfa will be happy with Zhou's performance, and I think they'll be content with Bottas's performance nearly in the points. But I really do feel like they're a team that have underachieved a little bit this year, if I'm being honest. You'll probably completely disagree with me, but I think there seems to be a lot of pace in that car, or there was a little bit earlier in the season, but they've not really been able to maximise those results, which is a little bit frustrating for me, because I think Bottas has been very, very good this year, despite that statement, and I think he's surprising quite a few people, including me, and making people like me eat my bloody words, which is fantastic. And it's all I've ever wanted Valtteri Bottas to do, is make me eat my words. Who's next? So we've got Williams next. Alex Albon. I've literally not got a thing in my notes for him other than virtual safety car pit stop lap 10. But again, what can Albon do in that car? I think it's quite clear to me that Williams is the slowest car on the grid overall. All Albon can do is finish the race, and if there's a little bit of craziness, he might get a really great result. So P12 today with 4 officially, 5 technically retirements, and he's up there in a way on the fringes of points. I mean, 1.6 seconds behind Bottas, so not that far off Ocon if we'd had a couple more extra laps. So I think that's all he can do, is finish the race, and that's what he's done once again. So well done to Alex Albon. Nicholas Latifi had a very entertaining race, but still finished last. 10-second stop-go penalty, not his fault because of a starting grid infringement. His mechanic, or a mechanic, or as I've written it here, peeps on the grid. His mechanic was on the grid, pushed the car back. That was after the 15-second, I think it is, warning signal, and that is slam dunk penalty all day long. That is a safety rule, really, a safety rule that was brought in to prevent having mechanics on the grid. If you've seen some of the accidents we've seen in the past in Formula One of mechanics trying to start cars while the race starts or formation lap, and the cars behind ploughing into that mechanic at the back of the car, you can understand why that rule's there. There are other reasons for it, but that is a big reason, is for safety. So that's a slam dunk. A little bit, maybe I'm being harsh, I don't know, but a little bit amateur hour for a team like Williams to be doing that. He did look at his watch, but obviously his watch was wrong and pushed him back, and that's a slam dunk. The other one was a 5-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags, which is, it's interesting, isn't it, when you consider that his teammate didn't get a penalty for Monaco. Let's open that can of worms, Sean, because at the end of the day, I feel like that should have been a penalty as well for Alexander Albon. That's a conversation for another day, definitely. But yeah, a 5-second penalty for Latifi. That was basically it. That's it for Williams. I mean, Latifi, he's under massive pressure. I would be absolutely stunned if he is in that car next year. I'm going to say it. It annoys people when I say it because it's not a personality thing. It's about racing. But he is a lovely guy. There's no doubt about it. But he just ain't cutting it. He's been in that car longer than Alexander Albon. Alexander Albon's had a year out and is absolutely schooling him in that car. And he's making, ignoring blue flags is a rookie error. Yes, Albon did it in Monaco, but he's got a penalty for this one. It's a massive rookie error. And Williams' mistake today was kind of frustrating as well. I will come to the super chat in a minute. Thank you very much, Charles. In fact, no, I'll do it now before I finish off with the run through. So we've only got Haas to do. Thank you very much, Charles Edward Cheese, for your contribution via super chat. No message, so I'll give you a thumbs up, but I don't have a camera, so I'll give you a thumbs up at the screen. It is a thumb, I promise. Thank you very much. Always appreciated, mate, your support on the channel and all of your support on the channel, not just Charles, but that is incredibly generous, mate. So thank you. Thank you so much. You know what to do, chat. We are 1,367 watching. We are halfway, just over, or just under, to 500 likes. Let's get that to 500 likes for Charles Edward Cheese. So please do drop a like. Always appreciate it anyway, but let's get that to 500 for Charles Edward Cheese. It's not for me, it's for the Cheese Man, as people call him in my comments section and chat. Also, thank you very much to Ruby for your super chat. Says, is there any point in penalising Latifi? Also, Lewis is still the greatest of all time, despite the bad back and slow pit stops. Most of the overtakes were Lewis. Thank you very much, Ruby, for your super chat. I think Lewis was pretty damn mega today, despite his problems. Obviously, the bad back, as Ruby said, but you've also got the car's not in a great place, is it? So to come through, getting involved in battles. Like I said, probably sick of the back of an Alpine, definitely, but fantastic driving. I think deserving of a nod in driver of the day and deserving of getting that one. The official driver of the day. And thank you again to Charles, already soaring with the likes. Thank you so much. Let's wrap up with Haas then. Today, I believe they're the last ones. They are indeed. Mick Schumacher 14th, Kevin Magnussen DNF. Again, Mick Schumacher, not a lot to say. Virtual safety car, stop on lap 10. A little bit of a quiet weekend for him. I'm really concerned. That was a noise. What a noise that was. That's a new one. Yeah, a little bit concerned about him as well for next season. I think Haas a little bit frustrated with the incidents. Just no pace today. 38 seconds behind Tsunoda. Just 2 pit stops. Well up the road from Latifi, to be fair. But yeah, not much from Mick today at all. I'm concerned for him. I'm not a Mick Schumacher fan in the sense that I've not got all the merch and all of that business, but I am a Mick Schumacher fan in the sense that he is my hero's son. So it is always emotional to see M Schumacher on the timing screens, and it would be a shame in that respect if he loses his seat at the end of the season. But based on performance, I think it's probably that he's going to have to go. It's a performance sport. It's a results business. If he's not performing, he has to go, regardless of the name. It's not. I disagree with people that say it's the name that got him to Formula One. It absolutely isn't, because he was so good in junior Formula. He did such a great job, particularly Euro F3. I think it was incredible in that one, particularly in his second season. But it's a results business at the end of the day, isn't it? And he's not cutting it at the moment. So I think he's in trouble. Plenty of time to turn it around, of course. Maybe they'll stick with him for another year. Maybe Ferrari will pay a bit of money to keep him in there. But a lot of talent waiting to come through. And I think that puts a bit of pressure on him as well. Kevin Magnussen. K-Mag was another one involved in quite a bit of fun stuff today. Quite a bit of action. Nice DRS move on Albon on the outside of turn 1, but it was a DRS move, so probably not as exciting as maybe I thought it was. Lovely late braking move on the outside of Valtteri Bottas on lap 17. Was running quite nicely. I think would have had a shot at some points today had everything continued the way it was, but then his engine let go. He said engine over the radio. There's nothing confirmed from Haas yet from what I can see, but had a reliability issue, pulled over on the track. That was a virtual safety car, and that was game over for Kevin Magnussen, which is very... I mean, Haas as a team have frustrated the life out of me this year. We've seen some great performances, some good points on the board. It's nice to see them scoring, but they're another team like Alfa that don't seem to be able to maximise their results and maximise the potential in that car, and it's really bloody frustrating to see Haas in that position. But yeah, K-Mag, reliability issues there. Prior to that, it was looking really, really good. Could have nicked a point, maybe. I don't know. We'll never know, of course. But I'll tell you what, I'll throw this at your chat before we get to drive of the day. Does anybody think that Haas are going backwards a little bit? Or is it just that they can't seem to get it right on a Sunday? Because I feel like they started off maybe top 5 in terms of their pace initially, but they seem to be going backwards, which maybe isn't a surprise given the budget they've got versus some of the teams around them like McLaren. But I definitely feel like they're falling back into that fight with, let's say, Aston Martin and Williams now, rather than starting to move forward, which, yeah, a few people in chat agree with me. Wow, agreeing with me. What is this? This is weird. Yeah, reliability's bad as well, Waldo. They've had some bad luck as well, made some interesting calls, but I'm glad I'm not alone. Definitely. Random Z says an upgrade coming for France, so that could be interesting. Haas and Alfa Romeo are operationally bad, says Raul. Haas is probably doing no development anymore, question mark. I think they will be, but I know that Gunther Steiner said they were going to wait a couple of months before they put an update on because they wanted to get everything they could out of this package first and then put the upgrade on, which is also maybe a sign of a team that hasn't got the budget to do what Red Bull are doing, for example, and bring something new every weekend. Because we have got the cost cap, but don't forget, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, probably McLaren as well, they are going to be hitting the ceiling of that cost cap. Williams, Haas and co aren't going to get anywhere near the ceiling of that cost cap because they just haven't got the money to do it. So, let's see what the update does in France before we start worrying about Haas, definitely. But yes, thank you very much as well to Bill for your super chat. Says, don't catch too many reactions live, but I love listening to them. In celebration, take some coin, go Max. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you for your support as well. It's nice. It's always nice for somebody who catches them later can come in and catch them live. So you get my full ramblings live and you can influence my madness. But thank you very much, Bill. Always appreciated. Driver of the day, one surname chat. Who is your driver of the day? The official one was Lewis Hamilton. I think that's fair. I mean, if you want me to, if we're going to be pedantic, I need to make sure I cover this base because if I'm going to be pedantic, the driver of the day was Max Verstappen because he finished first. If we're going to be that pedantic about it, so there you go, Max Verstappen, driver of the day. But I'm going to give. I kind of want to say Hamilton, but because it's the official one, and looking across briefly there at chat, it looks like it's going to be the chat one as well. I'll say Hamilton, but I'm going to give you a backup and actually go with Gasly or Vettel. Oh, go on. Let's go Pierre Gasly. I don't think I very rarely give him a driver of the day. I think P5 today. One-stop strategy, made it work. Yes, Vettel did as well. Very much on his own, Gasly, in some ways, but he drove consistently. Great pace. Russell's in there as well, isn't he? This is tough. I'll stick with Gasly. It's tempting to give it to Russell or Hamilton, but I'll give you Gasly as a backup. But I think there are probably your race winner, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly, probably Sebastian Vettel as well, all deserve a mention in there. And I still think Zhou Guanyu, if he got a result today without the reliability problems, I think he'd be in the argument as well. But I can't include him because he didn't get a result today. So I'll say Hamilton, and then I'll pop second place to Gasly and say third to Russell, but also make sure that I cover the base, as I say, that, well, actually, Sean, I think you'll find that the driver that finishes first is the driver of the day. And make sure we've covered that one. I love it. James, you were the first one today. He says Hamilton for driver of the day. Matrix says Vettel. Stefan says Gasly. Max has said Verstappen, not the Max Verstappen, but Max has said Verstappen. Andre says Max. Casey's gone with Gasly. Michael says Hamilton. Ilhamga says Hamilton. Aaron says Russell. Ruby's gone with Hamilton. I'm shocked, Ruby. I'm shocked to my very core. No, but actually today, absolutely bang on. Zakar says the Gaz man. Definitely. Waldo says Hamilton, but Gasly too. Nick's gone with Verstappen. Red Raven says Brendan Hartley, Toyota number 8. Should have said spoiler alert, never mind. Goku says Vettel. Paint says Vettel. Capturing through my lens says, can AlphaTauri do something like that? Is it legal? I'll come back to that one in a minute. You might be chatting to somebody else, actually. Sean, not me, says Vettel. Taekwondo says Verstappen. And then he said Taekwondo there. Fantaboy 50 says Vettel. Mashiro says Gasly. Let's scroll down a little bit further, see who else we've got in there. Chloe says Sonoda. I think Sonoda's a fair shout again. I'm really kind of frustrated with him and Zhou. I think they're the ones I'm gutted for today. Annette says Max. Good evening, Annette. Hope you're doing well. I've said Goku's. Erwin says Vettel. Raul says Gasly. Adam's gone with Hamilton. Otso says Gasly. Scroll down a little bit further. Joe says Perez. I think Perez raced well today, but I'm just a little bit concerned. They said it in Sky commentary where his pace has gone. Is my only concern and kind of putting me off Perez a little bit. So, yeah. It's always Yuki. Duct tape Yuki. It's speed tape. How dare you? Just because you win doesn't make you driver of the day. I know, but there are people in my comments who regularly, I say regularly, if you go into the comment section you won't find them, If I show you the held for review folder, because they start their message by calling me a see you next Tuesday, they'll point out that actually I think you'll find the driver who finishes first is driver of the day. But it's like when you have the driver of the season argument and people go, well, surely the world champion's the driver of the season. I'm like, yeah, but give me a break. Lucas says Ricardo or Alonso. I've been really horrible to Alonso for no reason, and I'm fully aware of that. But I just feel that I was expecting more mid-race. I thought it was winning the bloody thing. I'm exaggerating. Few more then. Let's say the Max says Vettel. Brad says Gasly. I'm going to go with 3 more, and I'm going to scroll down to make sure we've got some of those in that have just joined or letting me know what they said. I love that name for Yuki. It's perfect. It's what I'm going to call him from now on. King KD says Vettel. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further. Peter Van Breda says Russell, and 1 more. Obviously, Stoffel's in there. We need to get Stoffel in there, absolutely. And Paid Quartz says Joe, and Sam says Alonso. There you go. We're getting Alonso one in there, so everyone feels that I'm being a little bit more fair. If you have any questions, please do pop them in chat, or anything I've not covered you want me to just quickly mention on the stream. Please do that. I'm going to be ending in about 10 minutes tops, so if you've got anything, get it in there and I will of course try to answer that. We're at 339 likes, 1200 still watching, so don't forget to drop a like for Charles Edward Cheese to get that up to 500 likes. So please do drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe as well. We've got the Canadian Grand Prix preview on Thursday and the race reaction on Sunday, and we're wrapping up soon because I'm off to fetch the puppy, which is going to dominate my life for the next God knows how long. Is DRS fixing legal? Says Capturing Through My Lens. Is that so it's obviously if the DRS was broken on the Alpha Tauri, and you got the black and orange flag, so the FIA obviously decided, or the stewards decided at that point, look, we don't consider that safe. You need to bring that in and do some repairs. So to bring it in and then do the repairs is fine. If they can fix it and get him out, and that fix is good enough, then that is absolutely fine. My only thing was that whilst I thought it was quite amusing the way they fixed it, and clearly the way they fixed it was fine because the rear wing stayed closed and didn't fall off, it was obviously fine, but I did wonder if the FIA might look at that and say, no, we can't have that. You either need to fix it properly or he can't finish the race, and then maybe black flag him if the team still fails to do it properly. So it's not illegal to fix it, but it's you got to do it properly, and I'm just surprised. I just know how the FIA are with safety in races, particularly these new race directors have been very, very firm on it, haven't they? Especially with the jewelry thing. But that's why I'm a little bit surprised I didn't call him in and ask him to do it properly, or at least allow Joe Bauer to have a look at it and say that's fine. Joe Bauer from the FIA, of course. So it's probably down to opinions, really. It didn't, ultimately looking back now, it didn't fall off. The flap stays shut, it's fine, but you don't know that when the fix is going on the car, so it's a tricky one. But it is legal. You can fix it, and you can actually change. I mean, change what can you change? You can change the rear wing, but it takes about 20 minits to do. So they could have done that, but it was kind of pointless. They fixed it. It was like a NASCAR race. I liked it, says Azrevel, which is fair enough, definitely. +1, can Sainz get back to the championship? Really pulling for him, says Clay. I mean, can he? Yes, of course he can. We've had 8 races. It's a 22 race season. Carlos Sainz is still in there. I mean, let me just pull the standings up on my screen just to confirm that. I've got a new monitor to the left of me, which is a bit bigger, so it's nice. I've got more space to pull stuff up now. That was to move all my windows around, but that was information you didn't really need, but I'm telling you anyway. 83 points, 150 is what Max has got. I mean, he can, but I don't think that should be Carlos Sainz's goal this season. Maybe potentially controversially. What Carlos needs to do is get his head down and get back to doing what I know, what Ferrari know, what Sainz knows, and what many, in fact, not most of you will know Carlos Sainz can do, and that is drive fast, get some great results, and that's what he needs to be doing. And if we get 10 races down the line and suddenly he's pulled his way back into it, then start to look at that. But I think it's a big ask. I think this is between Verstappen, Perez, and Leclerc, and if you want me to really be quite frank about this, I think it's between Verstappen and Leclerc, because even if Perez is in there, I do not see a situation where Red Bull are going to favour Perez in a battle of Verstappen versus Perez versus Leclerc. So if you've got Perez leading in the championship fight and you've got Leclerc in third and Verstappen needs the win to keep himself in it, I think they'll make the swap. Absolutely. So that's not a dig at Red Bull. It works. It's worked so many times over the years. I mean, Michael Schumacher, how many times did his teammate hop out of the way? How many times? I remember Eddie Irvine backing up the pack at races for him before. I mean, Schumacher did it for Irvine in Malaysia in '99, didn't he? Backing up the pack. It's what they do. It works, having a 1 and a 2. But yeah, if I'm being honest, it's nothing against Max at all. I'd love Checo to win this championship. I'd love Leclerc to win. I'd love Sainz to. I wouldn't mind Russell doing it, but I think this is between Verstappen and Leclerc ultimately. But I hope he can get himself back into it. Give us a 4-way fight for the title. Come on. People moan about these new regulations, but come on. A 4-way fight for the title. Let's have it. Definitely. Nick says Russell can still be champion. He can get himself in there. Consistency is going to be key this season. If Mercedes stay reliable and Red Bull and Ferrari keep having their issues, what is he on now? 99 points, so he's 51 behind. Couple of DNFs or a couple of big incidents for the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, and he can pick up a win and a second place and all this business. He's soon right back in it, isn't he? With a couple of wins and a couple of consistent podiums, so he can. I just don't think. I think it is between Verstappen and Leclerc. But then we, sort the porpoising out of Mercedes, understand their car a bit better, maybe after the summer break. Big charge. There's a lot of races still to come after that, so can't even talk about summer break. It is June. And it does come in August, so it's quite cool. By that logic, Latifi can still be champion, says Mario. Well, Latifi can. What are you on about, Mario? Of course Latifi can be champion. You know he can. Yes, I know it's a weird thing. Plenty of races still to go. Latifi is not going to win the championship. I'm not that daft, although many will argue otherwise. But yeah, you never know. Latifi might. Anyway, I love that Merck can figure out porpoising and Lewis Hamilton back is being punished. Nice. What do you think of your first Indy 500, the F1 word? It was an interesting weekend, Indy 500, F1 and the Nürburgring 24. I really enjoyed it, honestly. Red Raven, I had no idea who... I knew, I knew Ericsson, I knew... I'd heard of Scott Dixon, I'd heard of Colton Herta, I knew Takuma Sato, I knew some of them, Callum Ilott, for example. I had no idea who the teams were. I will say a lot. Any Americans watching, you've got some patience. So many adverts. They kept having to go back to the UK coverage of it. I was like, how many adverts do you need? God, let people enjoy a bit of the race before you go for an advert. But no, I really enjoyed it. And obviously the outcome at the end, King Marcus of Ericsson taking the win was a nice moment as well. So my first Indy, and boom. I'm not taking credit for it, but the first Indy I watched, Marcus Ericsson wins it. Just saying. I also watched the race the following week. I've forgotten where it was now, but I watched the race the following week. Must admit, even though that was a street course and the Indy was on an oval, the Indy was far more exciting than the street course race, which I found weird, which is not like me at all. So I'm not gonna say I'm an IndyCar. I'm not converted to IndyCar just yet, but I'm gonna keep watching it. Detroit, thank you very much, Jay Starship. I am gonna keep watching it. I've got them on record, so I will catch up with them and try and get into it because, it's nice to be able to answer that kind of question rather than going, I have no idea. I did forget Grosjean, sorry. I apologise. Am I the only one who stopped watching F1 after they let Max through? From James. No. I watched. If I was the only one, then the sport's doomed. No, I think it's. I'm going to go back to it very quickly, but for me, in that situation, Red Bull made the right call because Verstappen was clearly quicker and pulled out 2 seconds on Perez, and Perez said he'd taken a lot out of his tyres. So in that situation, they didn't tell Checo to jump out of the way. They didn't say, "Can you let him through?" It wasn't a Valtteri, it's James moment. It wasn't Rubens let Michael pass for the championship. It was, don't fight each other. So you're allowed to race, but don't, if he gets alongside you, just let him go. Don't do anything silly. And I think that's the right call. I'd feel very differently if, as I said earlier, if Perez had been right on his backside straight after that and following him within a second for the rest of the race, because I'd be sort of thinking, yeah, but maybe they could let them race. But I think that was the right call from a team perspective, definitely. Same with McLaren stuff, really. Definitely. Faster teammates should be allowed to pass, not fight, says Ritter again. Do you think Aston Martin can get the front of the midfield this season, says Adam? Look, I love Lance Stroll. me and 3 people in the world love Lance Stroll. I think he's great. But I think at the hands of Sebastian Vettel, I think there can be some challenges towards the front of the midfield. In the championship, no, I don't think they will this season. They've got this car, this package that looks very similar to the Red Bull they've worked on very, very nicely, which is great. And I think if they can understand that, because somebody said the other week, copying a car and understanding a car are 2 very different things. So if they can get to understand that a little bit better, I'm not saying they did copy. They had it in development before Red Bull, apparently, or well midway through last season. But anyway, if they can understand that car and get to grips with it, I think they can challenge towards the front. But I think, 15 points now, top of the midfield would be, I mean, technically Mercedes, but I'll say McLaren. They're 50 points behind them. It's quite a big ask. They're going to need a lot of a little bit of luck and a lot of a jump in pace, or a big jump in pace. But I would like to see them in the mix. I mean, I think the midfield this year, I think Mercedes have got third. That's done minimum for Mercedes this year. I can't see McLaren turning over nearly 100 points, or Alpine or Alfa Romeo doing that either. But if you look at McLaren in fourth, 65 points, Alpine 47, Alfa Romeo 41, a little bit of a drop then to AlphaTauri on 27, then it's Haas and Aston on 15. Quite tight in there. And we've seen some races this year as well, haven't we, where it's very close. So I don't think they will finish top of the midfield, but I think they can, again, maybe after the summer break, they can maybe just get involved in the fight towards the front. So very quickly then, what have we got? Yeah, I've got a minute or two. Joe says, who to Williams next year? Well, first of all, I have to say Stoff, Joe. So Stoffel Van Dorn. I'm not contractually obliged, but I have to say it. It sounds like Oscar Piastri will replace Latifi. The Williams situation is a fascinating one. I'm not going to say too much, because I'm thinking about doing a video on this at some point in a couple of weeks, probably. Dig around for some more rumours and see what we've got going on. But I think Gasly could be the key to this, because, stick with me, honestly, because Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez signed a 2-year deal at Red Bull. Gasly's road to Red Bull, I honestly believe, was closed the minute he left. The minute he was dropped. I don't think he was ever going back there. A lot of people think he had a chance, but I always stood firm that I don't think it will happen. I'd like it to, but I don't think it will. And he is at AlphaTauri this season. Helmut Marko has said he's still got a contract for next year, so that lineup's staying unchanged. But Gasly said that they're still talking about it, and there are conversations. And the reason I say that he holds the key is because if he leaves AlphaTauri and goes somewhere, I don't know where that'll be, that's the topic for the video, but if he goes somewhere, do Red Bull then go and promote Yuri Vips or Liam Lawson, or do they think, do you know what, Alex Albon's doing a cracking job in that Williams, and put him back in there? Because if they do then go and get Albon, who is still their driver, managed by them, and puts him back in the AlphaTauri, Williams will probably keep Latifi and then have to go and get somebody to replace Albon, because I can't see them going with 2 new drivers. So I think he holds a little bit of a key here. But I think for me, it sounds like, or from the rumour mill at the minute, we've heard Nick De Vries, he did FP1 with them, so he might do some FP1 later in the year for them. So he's got to be in the conversation, and the Mercedes ties as well are in there, so that's got to be part of that conversation. But it sounds like Oscar Piastri is currently the favourite to replace Latifi at Williams. But like I say, and it's a lot of ifs, and this is why I love the F1 driver market, and why I can't wait to bring Garage Gossip back as we get into the summer, because I love doing this. But the F1 driver market is so dynamic in so many ways, and one move can Ricciardo, right before the summer break a few years ago, threw that hand grenade into the driver market when he left Red Bull. It just blew up from there, and that's what I love about this. All it takes is one move that completely changes things, and Gasly could be that move. You know, what if, let's very quickly, live in fantasy land, Ricciardo doesn't get it sorted, and McLaren say, we're not doing this, they drop him. They take Pierre Gasly. That's a seat at AlphaTauri open. Williams say, oh, hang on a second, we were going to bring in Piastri. What do they do then? Do they go and chase Ricciardo? Do they put Ricciardo and Piastri in the Williams? Do they go with Latifi and Piastri? Does Alex Albon go back to AlphaTauri? So many ways to look at that. But to answer your question, before I start talking about why I offer him a dinner, I think Piastri is the rumour at the moment. I think Williams could do with some experience in there, though, you know. I think they could really do with some experience at the moment. And I know Latifi's got a few years under his belt now, but he's not the one to lead that team. So Albon and Piastri wouldn't be bad next year. Maybe even Albon and Ricciardo. It's going to be fascinating. I think McLaren will stick with Ricciardo just for what it's worth. I can't see them wanting to buy him out his contract for starters, but secondly, if he hooks it up, he'll deliver. So yeah. Right now, as of today, the 12th of June, I will say Albon and Piastri at Williams next year. So it'll probably be Hamilton and Verstappen. Oh, actually, do you know? I'll have that. Last question. Hamilton and Verstappen at Williams for 23. That would be brilliant. One more question then, and then I will have to finish up for today because I've got to fly. I've got to go in like 20 minutes and I've still got to get some stuff sorted. I am dressed. I was going to say get dressed. I need to put my leaving the house clothes on rather than my streaming clothes. I'm not partial out of different clothes. I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, Katie agrees. That'll be good fun. One more. Okay, I'm going to answer that one because I like the question. It's not related to the race. But it's from MJ144, says, what country that F1 hasn't been to deserves at least one Grand Prix, excluding Vietnam? I'll be biased and say the Philippines, but what about you? So there you go, chat. Let me know, what country would you love to see F1 racing? I know what a lot of you will say before we get into this one. I am going to say... I'm going to say Finland. Because Finland have given us a hell of a lot of cracking F1 drivers over the years. They have given us I will get to Super Chat, Ruby. Don't worry, I've just spotted it on the other screen as I was checking. But I think they've given us some great drivers. We've got world champions, of course, who are Finnish. I reckon a race in Finland is where I'd like to see F1 go. Obviously, South Africa as well. I really want to see them go back to Kailami. But I think Finland is where I'd like to see one. I was looking at chat just very quickly. Some ideas. Malaysia, obviously, go back to Malaysia will be amazing. I'd love that. Costa Rica, says James. Estonia, says Carl. Hey, that could happen, Carl. If Yuri Vips manages to not stick it in the bloody wall at the castle section. Oh, so gutted. Then, gets himself into F1. Big popularity. Look at the Dutch Grand Prix, for example. It could happen. I don't know if they've got a track over there, but there you go. Nick says, has Finland never had a Grand Prix? Definitely Finland then. I don't think it's ever had a Grand Prix, as far as I know. Definitely. Zach says the USA could use a few more. Let's not get into that one, Zach. They've only got the 3, to be fair. New Zealand is a good idea after the Albert Park Grand Prix. And Argentina, we used to have an Argentine Grand Prix, of course, didn't we? Buenos Aires was one of them. I don't know if we have one somewhere else as well. And one more just to read out. So I'm saying Finland. Annette says Germany. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody. India, yeah, quite like India. And the last one goes to Professional Moron, Bolton. There you go. I don't know if Bolton's a country. If you want to count Bolton as a country, feel free. Thank you very much as well to Ruby for the super chat. Says, do we get puppy pics? Sean, is it called Shumi? It's not called Shumi. He's already named, but I'll go over all that. Yeah, I'll pop some pics on Discord and probably on Twitter as well to show some pictures, definitely. But yeah, I've got to go pick him up. So yes, thank you very much, Ruby. Thank you to Ruby for your super chats. To Bill as well. To Charles Edward Cheese, of course, for your super chat. Thank you to, I think it was. Oh no, I wrote. Yeah, loads of super chats. Thank you very much for them all today. Always appreciated. Yeah. I think that's it. I'm just having a quick check through my notes and all the paper stuff I've got in front of me, make sure I've not missed anything off. Yeah. Ireland, wet race every year. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, definitely. We are going to wrap it up there. Like I say, a little bit. I say a little bit short. I want to do an hour and 15 minutes. I've done an hour and 30. So an hour or an hour and a half would have been quicker. But that is it for this stream. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. I will stay on a little bit longer next Sunday to make up for the shorter one this week, I promise. Although it's only a few minutes shorter, really, when you think about it. Thank you for your super chats. Thank you as well to everyone who's subscribed. And thank you too for all your likes. We're about 108 away, or exactly 108 away from 500. So of the 1,000 of you that are still here, if 108 of you could drop a like, that'd be majorly appreciated. Majorly appreciated for Charles Edward Cheese and to everyone else who's super chatted today. I will update the patrons as well. I forgot to do it for stream this week. I'll do it this coming week as well, ready for next week. Yes, I'll send you pictures later, Jonty. Don't worry. Don't worry. I missed you today on the sofa, Jonty. It wasn't the same watching a race without you. I cried. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but, it was weird. I kept saying things and you weren't there. Yeah, missed you. I'm not impressed, mate. You should be here every Sunday. I expect you on a train in the morning. I will be back on Thursday. This is why these streams overrun, because I can't shut them up. I'll be back on Thursday with the preview for the Canadian Grand Prix, and of course I'll be live after the race on Sunday. Dan is back. Oh, yeah. Yeah, lock up your sanity. Dan is back with us on Sunday for the race reaction. You can follow me on social media as well, where there will be puppy pics at some point. All the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.